Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the memorial service for our beloved Dasty. I'm just overwhelmed by the turnout from the community, and particularly happy to see all the children here today. You know, generations of children grew up with Dasty and Officer Hogan, all of whom were impacted when we lost our beloved Dasty. And before I get into my comments, there are so many people to thank around a successful K-9 program that went more than, what, 13 years with Dasty? Almost 13 years with our program. And I could spend the balance of the morning thanking people. And I want to thank everybody that's here, but I want to point out a few people. I want to thank Captain James Curran, who put this program together, worked with Officer Hogan, and worked tirelessly to make sure that this event unfolded safely today, and that we properly acknowledged Dasty. You know, as I looked out the window as the procession arrived, I thought, if I got run over by a bus tomorrow, people would say, "Chief who? Fred who?" But we lose such a symbolic and beloved K-9 that really represented our community policing philosophy in Arlington. You know, community policing is about partnerships. And, you know, our partnerships with our fellow K-9 officers from throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you all for being here, ladies and gentlemen. The work that you do and the regional approach and the teamwork. You know, if Mike's on vacation, we can rely on Belmont or Burlington and vice versa. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out today. I want to thank Captain Flaherty, who worked on and has done a fabulous job with our friends at the Cusick Terrace, the women in the corner that enjoy this beautiful patio out here. John Griffin, the head of the Housing Authority. John, where are you? John's the, you can see the solar glare off the top of his head back there in the back. Our friends at Armstrong Ambulance, Rich Raymond is here, and I'll invite him up later, as is Gail Armstrong. I've been incredible supporters of our K-9 program and of the police department, and we appreciate that partnership. Our friends from the Arlington Fire Department are here, and again, the community. As I started to mention, our philosophical approach to policing in Arlington is to partner with the community. And there is no program that, sort of illustrates the partnership and the problem-solving approach to addressing issues in our community than our K-9 program. Dasty in many ways was as smart, if not smarter, than our police officers. Dasty did not like me. I want to make that abundantly clear. And it dawned on me this morning as I was preparing my remarks, Dasty didn't like me because you're not supposed to like the chief. And Dasty got that. Every time I walked by, he'd growl at me and give me a scowl just like the patrolmen do. I thought he's no different than our police officers. And Officer Hogan, as a K-9 handler, and I think his partners to my right will agree, is among the finest K-9 handlers in the Commonwealth, and I would argue in the country. His ability to work with that animal, Dasty, and the bond that the two of them built as partners, I can't bring justice to in my comments. it is a bond like no other. It's as powerful, if not more powerful, than a marriage. And you know, as we lost Dasty, and I had conversations with Mike, you know, I could see that he was going through the stages of grief, just like you do when you lose a family member. You know, there's denial and there's anger, a little bit of depression, some tears, and then we move on into acceptance. And I think that's why today is so important for all of the members of the Arlington Police Department, and particularly for Officer Hogan and his beautiful family who are all here in the front row. It's important to accept Dasty's loss and to move on with our mission at serving this community with our highest priority of providing fair and impartial police services, and accept Dasty's loss, recognize the overwhelming impact that Dasty and Officer Hogan have had on this community, and to provide Dasty with a respectful service. You know, a wise man once said, the one best place to bury a good dog is in the heart of his master. And I think, you know, in the conversations I've had with Mike over the past few weeks, there's no question that Dasty will forever be in Mike's heart and in the heart of his beautiful family. So with that, I'd like to invite a few guest speakers. We have with us today a number of important people, far more important than I. Probably the most important person in the audience is our town manager, my boss, Mr. Adam Chapdelaine, if you'd be kind enough to come up. Good round of applause. Adam's been, you know, I've worked for, is he here? So he's my boss, right? I have to kiss up a little bit. But I've worked for a lot of managers. I've never worked for a manager that supports the mission and the values of the police department more than Mr. Chapdelaine and all town departments, fire department, public works, just an incredible manager, incredible communicator, and I know that he wants to say a few words to the community. Mr. Chapdelaine, thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Chief. You know, Dasty seemed to like me, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. Exactly. So I really can't say much more and beyond what the Chief already said. Really just expressing how important Dasty was to the Arlington Police Department, to the Arlington community, and really that the work that Dasty and Officer Hogan did really just so emblematic of the community policing culture and feeling and just intention of the Arlington Police Department. So I guess really what I want to say today is just be able to express my most sincere appreciation for everything that Dasty did for this community, working with Officer Hogan, and to also express my sincere appreciation and condolences to Officer Hogan for the loss of Dasty. But I know with ICO, you'll be able to continue that tradition, and we're not really at a loss for that community policing model because we're going to continue it with Officer Hogan and with ICO. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chapdelaine. And, you know, as we talk about partnerships, we're blessed in Arlington. You know, I should point out our Assistant Town Manager, James Feeney, is here along with our Personnel Director, Karen Malloy. Nice to see you both, too. You know, we talk about partnerships, and you know, we're blessed in Arlington to have a veterinarian like no other. For those of you who know Dr. Fallon like we do, he has just been an extraordinary human being and caring veterinarian to many families in Arlington, but his work with Dasty was above and beyond. And, you know, Dr. Fallon brings a passion to his profession like no other veterinarian. And I'm a dog lover, and I know how difficult it is to lose a dog. Doc Fallon has been amazing. We call him at night, right, Mike? Call him on the weekend. You know, Dasty has this issue or that issue, and Doc Fallon was on it. And, I'm sorry? One day on Christmas. And, you know, he's not the type of guy that would have an invoice in the mail the following morning either. He did it because he cared. He cares about the community. He cared about Dasty in our K-9 program, and he's just an extraordinary human being. I'd like to invite Doc Fallon for a couple of comments. Please give him a nice round of applause. It's unbelievable.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think the coolest thing about today is we're here because of a dog. And I think that's very special, not dog. K-9 Dasty. And I know certainly there are hundreds of memorials and services for other K-9 dogs all over the U.S. and around the world, but Dasty was our dog. Our K-9 dog. And without exaggeration, in one way or another, Dasty connected with all of us. Thousands of school children and thousands of people in our community know Dasty. How fortunate we are with this connection. As we know, Dasty was also lucky to have Officer Hogan for his partner and handler. Mike will tell you that he was the lucky one. They were a team every day, 24/7, for close to 12 years. No days off. Dasty came to Arlington in the fall of 2006. He was healthy, strong, and rarely needed any medical attention. He was willing to work every day. In June this year, Dasty was showing some signs of a GI upset. And very abnormal for him, he didn't want to eat. We treated his symptoms, but 2 days later the symptoms returned, and Mike called me and said, Dasty isn't right. It was Sunday. It was Father's Day. We both had family planned and agreed to meet later in the day. I met Mike with Dasty at the clinic. And in order to get Dasty out of his cage, feeling so lousy, he said to Dasty, do you want to go to work? Despite his discomfort, Dasty's strong spirit gave him the strength to get into the car and come up to the clinic. Ready to go to work. In the clinic, with his muzzle on, of course. And I need to say that when we weren't doing an exam on Dasty, Dasty walked around the clinic chasing treats with no muzzle on and letting everyone pet him. I was able to palpate a large tumor in his abdomen. Together, Mike and I held Dasty on the x-ray table. When we saw the image, we knew it was time to stop. Mike and Dasty's entire family came up to say goodbye. Today, we celebrate his life. Today, we can wish to be like him, strong and alert, living in the moment, and having the ability to love unconditionally.
Thank you, Doctor. You know, I got a GI upset every time I saw Dasty, so I can relate to that. You know, the men and women to your left are saying, all right, Chief, get through with this. We're standing in the blazing sun in our dark uniforms. Bear with us. Now, if I could, as I mentioned earlier, our friends from Armstrong Ambulance are here. They're not only our neighbors across the street, but they're extraordinary partners to the police department, the fire department, and the community of Arlington. You know, Bill Armstrong left a legacy of philanthropy and giving, and I think you'll see again here today that legacy lives on. His daughter Gail, who now runs the organization, is with us, along with Rich Raymond, their president and CEO. So if I could invite Rich and Officer Hogan front and center, please. Gail, could you wave your hands so everybody can see you for me? All right, thank you.
So I didn't know I was going to be talking today, so I have nothing recorded, but it will take a few seconds. When we learned of Dasty's passing, our whole community at EMS really have always known Officer Hogan. He's been a fabric within our base. He's great to our folks on scene as well. And talking to Gail, we knew we had to do something, so we put together a little special memorial that we hope we can put on a shelf in the police department that will keep Dasty here for years to come. You know, like I said, Mike Hogan has been very special to Armstrong. He's been very special to Bill. And I can tell you, whenever Mike Hogan came around our office, time stopped. Bill would jump up from the chair, would step out of a meeting, whatever the meeting may be, and just took time to talk to Mike Hogan, and Dasty. So, again, I don't want to hold you guys too long. It's been a special relationship. Dasty will be well missed by our group as well. And I can tell you on behalf of the first responders, police, the fire, the Armstrong family, we hope this can go on a shelf within the police department.
Thank you, Richie. I want you to go ahead and open that. So while Mike's opening that, thank you, Mr. Raymond. You all should know, if you haven't had the opportunity to see our display here in the lobby of our newly renovated police station, we have some historical artifacts. And Captain Julie Flaherty is working with our vendor to build a permanent little memorial in our main lobby for Dasty, and we expect that we will put this beautiful plaque that was gifted by Armstrong. In loving memory, Dasty, Patrol Narcotic K-9, 2006 to 2017, Arlington Police Department. Thank you very much. Thanks to the Armstrong family. So I'm gonna ask Mike to say a few words, and we'll close the ceremony. But before I do, I want to share a little story. Many years ago, and this really illustrates not only Mike, but all of the men and women of the Arlington Police Department and the Arlington Fire Department. More than a decade ago, Mike was able to respond to a emergency medical services call, and he initiated CPR and defib, and he saved a woman, along with the support of the fire department and Armstrong that came in and supported him after his initial response. And the woman survived. And every year on her birthday, Mike would send her a birthday card. Now that in and of itself is extraordinary, right? Unbeknownst to Mike, this woman followed his career and created a scrapbook on the events of the births of his children and all the amazing work that Mike and his brother and sister police officers have done over the years. And if you know Mike, there's a lot of media out there on him. He's like Superman, right? My wife keeps telling me I gotta promote him and give him a pay raise and so forth. If I had that authority, I would. But what's extraordinary about that story is that this woman not only kept the scrapbook diligently, but on the time of her passing recently, her husband presented it to Officer Hogan. And if that doesn't symbolize the work of Officer Hogan and our commitment to the protection of life and property in a fair and dignified way in our community, that all of the men and women of the Arlington Police Department engage in day in and day out, you know, to receive that gift from that gentleman was simply extraordinary and really highlights who Mike Hogan is as a human being. And what I like to say is if a guy like Mike Hogan came home and was introduced to me by my daughter as their significant other, he would get my overwhelming approval. Mike is an officer and he's a gentleman. And with that, I'd like to ask Officer Mike Hogan to say a few words. Mike.
I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'd like to point out a couple people. Mr. John Johnson, if you can raise your hand. So John is the one that got Dasty for us. And I remember going there the first night. He brought out another dog first, which was Turbo, which was his dog. Did a couple of demonstrations, and I said, oh my God, I hope that's not my dog. Then he brought out Dasty. Sweet, jumped up on me, kissed my face. I'm like, oh my God. And John said, I wouldn't do that. So it's funny to be here with all these people that wouldn't stand next to him, which is kind of great, because he was that kind of a dog. And the K-9 guys will tell you, he was a hard-headed dog. But he knew when to turn it on and turn it off. My first day at the academy, I brought him there, and then at the end of the day, I came home and I told my wife and kids, don't ever go near that dog. Because I saw what he was capable of. But that being said, he really got it. I could go into a school with preschool kids, kindergartens, anybody, and they could come up, he would lean right into them, and they would pat the dog, except for the chief. But he was a great dog. I'm gonna miss him. He did exactly what he wanted. He wanted to work his entire life, and that's what he did. But thank you for all the support, especially the K-9 guys and the men and women of the K-9. We're a tight-knit group. We train together, and if one of the K-9 officers needs something, they'll call somebody else, and we all go. I remember going to the academy, and my wife said, how is it? I go, it's unbelievable. Everybody there is just like me. And I'll finish with Troy Casey is the head instructor for Boston. Anything I've ever done is because that guy told me to do it. But he gave me quite a compliment during the academy. He said, I've never seen a dog matched up as perfectly with the handler. You're both a mess. And then we worked from there. But thank you so much. My favorite thing with the dog, like, he was an unbelievable dog, catching bad guys, finding drugs. But my favorite thing is going into the schools with the kids, having them feel comfortable in dealing with the police department, and building strong relationships. I would go to any school and walk that dog right in, and every kid in town knows who Dasty was. Not me. I told somebody I'm a professional Uber driver for a dog. But I love having all the kids here today. It's the favorite part of my job, and thank you very much.
As I said, an officer and a gentleman. Thank you, Officer Hogan, and thank you for what you do day in and day out for the mission of the Arlington Police Department. I think the optics of all these children here is just awesome. And I think it just illustrates what we're trying to achieve as a police department in your community. You know, I'm looking around the crowd. We have our funeral directors, both from Key Funeral Home and DeVito Funeral Home today here. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. It's just amazing to see our philosophical approach to policing come together in an event like this. And, like, you know, some may criticize and say it was just a dog. Dasty wasn't just a dog, and anybody who owns a pet knows it's not just a dog. Mourning the loss of Dasty has been difficult for Mike and difficult for the police department as a whole. And this is an incredibly important closure for us, and I want to thank each and every one of you. Every one of you that's here today, I want to thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting the police department in Arlington. And I was given directions in my closing remarks. Marilyn Devaney is here from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts officer. She's on the Governor's Council. And she's just asking that I ask folks that if they choose an organization to donate to, that you choose one of the animal shelter. There's a number of shelters you can donate to around the Commonwealth to support animals that are in need of veterinary services. So Marilyn is here from the Governor's Council. I didn't want to forget about that. So with that, thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for the work that you do. Yep.
I didn't acknowledge Kevin Fallon and I'm Kevin, I was voting for.
Right. So Mike's, like he so often does, correcting me. I gotta explain the whole chain of command thing to him. He doesn't get it. I take my orders from him. He just wanted me to drive home Kevin Fallon's work at the animal clinic. You know, it goes back to the partnership. So thank you again, Doc. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the Hogan family. You know, really, Nancy and the children, I mean, what a beautiful family. And what you may or may not know, you know, a K-9 handler, you know, when they go home at 4 o'clock, they're not off duty. And so the family has to absorb some of the feeding and handling and all the work that goes with it. And I know that you guys, you know, even on vacations, when we were unable to place Dasty, I had to take Dasty down the Cape with them. So thank you to the entire Hogan family. Thank you to the community for being here, and please continue to support what I believe to be the best police department in the United States of America. Thank you very much. That concludes the ceremony. We're going to take some photographs with the children here, and we're going to take some photographs with the K-9 handlers. And please, talk with the officers, get to know the officers, and enjoy a little beautiful time here this morning. But thank you all for being here. Thanks.